Hi, everyone. So many people connecting right now. Can you confirm that you can hear us? We are reading you through the chat. Can you hear us? Are you there?
Hello. Can somebody say if you can see us? Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So you're there. So
Okay.
while so many yes coming over now. So while everyone joins in, I'm going to make a super brief introduction before we start with our session today. That is, let's talk about UX UI design. So my name is Dani. I am part of the team at All Women, and we have a lot of people connecting today. So in case some of you don't know who we are or what we do, well, we are an academy. We are an academy for women in tech. We are based in Barcelona, but we are teaching fully remote. So now we have a big international community. And we are training ladies in different fields such as data science, data analytics, web development, UX writing and content design, and product management. And of course, last but not least, UX UI design, which is kind of like the topic that is bringing us here today. So we have prepared a panel, let's say that way, of 4 amazing ladies with us here. So we have 2 instructors of our UX UI bootcamp, Susana and Lydia. And then we also have 2 graduates, Claudia and Ilva. So they will introduce themselves in just a few minutes and let you know a little bit about what they are actually currently doing. And what I wanted to tell you is that the idea for the session today is to make it as interactive as possible. So this will be kind of like an Ask Me Anything session. Any question that you have and that you would like us to address, you can put it in the Ask a Question tab that should be on the bottom of your screen. And since we have a lot of people connected today, in that same bottom, you will find the option to vote which question you find more relevant. Okay, so you can just drop your questions there. And if you want us to address one of those, just send another vote. We're going to try to cover as much as possible, but we have an hour and a half. So the idea is that we're going to start with more like informational questions, kind of like what UX UI design is, what kind of soft or hard skills I need if I want to get into UX UI design. And then in the second part of the conversation, we're going to cover questions more related to career development or landing a job. What are the job titles that could be related to UX UI design, and so on. So that being said, I think that we can start with the session. So just to break the ice, I'm going to drop the first question that I already anticipated, which is you ladies can introduce yourselves and let us know a little bit about you, your current jobs, and so on. So I don't know if one of you wants to start. Or should I call a name? Susana.
I can.
You're muted, Susana.
It's very slow. That's why. Can you hear me now?
Yes. No,
okay, I was saying welcome everybody. So nice to see girls from all over the world. It's really amazing. Maybe there's also some guys, I don't know, but anyways, welcome everybody. So I'm Susana. I'm Portuguese actually, but I've been living here in Barcelona for 2 years now. So spending the pandemia. This is more or less also the time that I've been teaching at All Women. And I'm a senior product designer, currently working at AirHelp. I'm a designer for more than 15 years now. And just a little bit of a summary, I started actually working in advertising agencies and, digital agencies. And then the world evolved a lot and we evolved with the world. So I'm super focused also in UX. And we talk a little bit about that for you guys to understand a little bit all the components of it as well. And yeah, I think that's it. Just ask the questions that you want. Don't be shy. It's very important to be curious as a designer. So maybe next.
Lydia, you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Welcome
I'm Lydia. I am based in Barcelona. I'm Spanish, and similarly to Susana, I've been a designer for a bit less than 10 years, and I also started in advertising. Actually, that's what I studied, and then I transitioned slowly into web design, and that led me to UX. And after a couple of years, I'm actually specialized as a UX designer in video games. I work at King. Candy Crush is famous, is our most famous game. I'm working on Crash Bandicoot actually, and yeah, that's me. I'm super happy that everybody's here, and actually feel free to ask questions. Yeah, I'm gonna be active on the chat. Make comments as well, like if there's something that you perceive that it's interesting. We can also read it and maybe elaborate a bit more on that, or it's good to have your impressions about what we're discussing today. I noticed that there was already a question about is this only for women, or not really, like this is open to everybody, but the academy is focused more on women only, so that's why maybe if you kind of randomly landed here, this is why you're seeing so many. So yeah, that's me. Happy to be here. And maybe, I don't know, Ilva, you want to go next?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, welcome everybody. Indeed, interesting to see that everybody's connected from different places. So that's exciting. So yeah, I'm Ilva. I'm German. I'm also based in Barcelona, and I'm actually quite new to the UX world. So I did the bootcamp last year, 2021, January to March, and my background is in business and marketing. And then I realized that's not really it. So I had a few months of trying to figure out if UX might be something, and then I was scared, and then I finally took the step and did the bootcamp, and now I work as a product designer for a startup called Picker in Barcelona. So happy to help with any questions around transitioning and yeah, taking that step. So welcome everyone.
I guess I'm the last one. Well, my name is Claudia. I am originally from Venezuela. I live right now in a small town close to Barcelona, and like 1 hour further away from Barcelona. I am originally an architect, so not so close to the design, but kind of like related to. I have experience in architecture of like 10 years or so on. But then at some point I was like, okay, this is probably not my thing. I was a bit like tired and stressed of working on huge projects, and I wanted a radical change. So at some point of my life, I was like, okay, I need to do something different, but kind of similar. I didn't know if continue like evolving in the architecture side. So I choose the completely opposite thing of like going to and doing something completely different. And I did the boot camp. I quit my job in the middle of the not in the middle of the pandemic, of the pandemic, one day before the pandemic was actually declared. Then I joined the boot camp, and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this, but then I did. I liked it, and I found a job in a startup that works making products for architects. So that's what I do now. I'm the UX designer of this company.
Great timing, Claudia. Okay, so we have so many questions. I'm going to start with the most voted one, which is, what are the typical responsibilities of someone in UX UI?
Should we talk about the roles roughly? Because it also depends. It depends a lot on what role you are having within the current project or the current company, because different companies might be calling a UX UI designer to someone that focuses a lot on the UI, which is more the visual aspect, and less on the process. But you can be a UX designer and do research like me. So I think this touches a bit on roles. I know Claudia actually had prepared something around roles. I don't know if you want to discuss it maybe, and from there we can take it. Yeah, I have a link to share with you guys. But basically, if you study UX UI design, depending on your skill set and depending on your whatever you want to develop your career, there are like, I think
4 or 5 like main roles that you can find. The first one is like the pure UX designer. If you're a pure UX designer, you would be probably working mostly on doing wireframes, working on the user flow, basically taking specifications from your product owner or your product team to translate those requirements into like the skeleton of the soon to be app or website or whatever product you're working on. Then there is the UX UI designer. That is, I will explain later after the UI design. The UI designer then will take these wireframes and translate it like and actually like will bring to life this skeleton of the app or product. The UX UI, which is my role, would kind of like do a bit of both. It also includes prototyping not prototyping, also testing your designs. I don't know if UI designers are like too much into testing. It depends on the role, depends on the company a lot. There is also product designers who also take, many of them also work on the specifications. Well, Susana is a product designer, she can like elaborate on that. But so long as I understand, product designers also take work on the specifications, on the roadmap, coordinate the team of UX and UI designers, or also like sometimes if product designers also touch a bit of the graphic designs of like the whole visual identity of the product or company. And there's also like this weird role called unicorns, that is basically a UX designer that can program, or a programmer that can do UX UI. So it's kind of like somebody who knows a lot. My boss is one of those. He programs and also knows UX, and it's like, so it's very cool. I will share the article with you guys, but if you have any doubts that we can ask, that we can answer in that regard, it would be great.
So actually, I just shared that link throughout the chat. So over there, you will get to see the list of positions that Claudia was talking about. And yeah, I think that maybe from here, maybe we can get a little more in depth into the question that was the typical responsibilities, even though we understand that they will change a little bit according to the position, or actually change a lot according to the position. But maybe another way to ask this would be if we can talk a little bit about like the day-to-day tasks as a UX UI designer. Like, what are you actually doing?
Maybe I can jump in a little bit. Mm-hmm. So we were talking about roles, and it's important to understand this. Sometimes the companies call different names for people to do the same things. So you always need to check what the job description is and what they want. If they call it UX UI designer or product designer, it kind of goes more or less in the same way, and it really depends on each company how their approach to it. But basically, how I see the role of a designer, on top of everything, this person is a facilitator. So you need to be in contact with a lot of people a lot of times, of course, with your users as well. And in some points, in some jobs, you might be doing research, but others you are a UX, UI designer, but you have a research team. So you basically cooperate together. So the day-to-day tasks are basically based on your process of being a UX designer, UI designer. What enters first is the research. So you need to understand and to collect all the insights you need to answer your users' needs, right? And you always do this align with the roadmaps that the company have and with the OKRs. So there's a very close relationship with the project manager. If you're working in a startup, a scale up, I mean, this type of Scrum way of working, agile, etc., you're probably going to be working very close with your developers and your project manager and the research team if you have it. If you don't have it, you're going to work by yourself, or you're going to do whatever you can to make it true. But the daily tasks basically are getting these insights that could come from you preparing or asking for research, and you have reports, you can be conducting interviews, and this is part of the daily job if you do it. Also, when you have these, you also need to present these insights and to take decisions on what you need, or tasks, like what you're going to pick up to be fixed, let's say, or developed, right? So this goes to the part of the process. All of this goes in your day-to-day life. I don't want to leave you confused because it's a lot of things and it's a process, yeah? So at the end, what you want to do is to improve or to create an awesome experience for your product or service. So there's a bunch of stuff you do in your day-to-day, and this involves different tasks like research. If you have research and you have a problem to solve, then you need to find a solution for it. There's a lot of ways for you to find the solution. You look into, you do benchmark, you look into other products, you think about ideas by yourself, and then you go to the wireframe. So what Claudia was talking about, that is also like a task you should doing. All of these, if you work agile or in a Scrum environment, which means you're always delivering value, happens like within weeks. Yeah, depends on your company. So basically you do a lot of stuff. You are not always doing the same thing, except if you are like, for example, just focusing UI, maybe you are more focused on just the visual part, and this is going to be your take more of your time. I hope this was a little bit more clear. Basically, you need to understand we do a lot of things depending on the company and depending on how your teams are arranged and all of that. If you still have doubts or questions, just ask, okay?
There's one question that we get a lot and is the most voted at the moment. That is, how important is coding in UX design? And I think that Claudia talked a little bit about that, but maybe we can answer that as well.
Well, I can say, since I have my mic open, I'm just going to say this one and then I'm going to... I don't think a UX designer needs to code, but I think every designer, even a graphic designer, needs to know the basics of coding. Yeah, everybody needs to understand the basics, because you will need to work with developers. You will need to understand what is possible and what is not. So the more you know about everything, the basics, the best you're going to do your job. Yeah, because we work for like a potential amazing number of different problems you could be solving. So the more you know about everything, including coding, the best for you. That's my vision.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute my microphone. So there's another question that I think that would be helpful to keep on like defining UX UI design. Sophie is asking, are UI and UX front end or back end? And maybe here we can talk a little bit about the difference between the visual part and then the research part.
I'm not sure if I understand the question, but if we're trying to make a comparison like front end and back end, like they're complementary essentially, yes, they are. Like actually an interface always has UX. Like the UI part is essentially the final product that you're seeing when you're using, I don't know, Instagram, for example, right? The interface has gone through several iterations in the design that have led into what you're seeing. And that process, that is not only the visual part that you're seeing, but maybe considering, I don't know, other questions like, should we change the interface based on the location of the user? For example, this is a UX question. Our question, UX is trying to solve questions that are normally asked before you start putting together the interface. So yes, they are complementary, but they're not, one doesn't exclude the other. And you can have an interface without doing the process of UX, and you can get it okay, but you always need your user. And UX focuses a lot in users and understanding what are the motivations for your users, the users of your app, what motivates them to come here. And it is your job as a UX designer to understand them and deliver the interface with the UI specialist or yourself, to assess those needs that you have found on user research, or you get from reports, however you're getting information about your users. So they are both complementary and they need each other. Like, for example, in games, normally there's like a specialist that is doing only the UI, So he focuses, in my case, my colleague, he's focusing on doing the super artistic part, but we have conversations around, okay, what is this intending to do, and we have them together. I do some wireframes, and then from those wireframes, he as a UI specialist is the one, making the magic of this is how it should look like, and putting it, implementing it actually. So I hope I answered a little bit that question.
So we also have some ladies that are sharing with us a little bit like about their backgrounds. So Alejandra, for example, she says that she has a background in design thinking and strategic design. And then we have another girl that has a background in traditional graphic design, and they are asking a little bit about transitioning into UX design. So maybe we can talk a little bit about what kind of background is required to get into UX UI design, if we consider that there is a specific background that is required, or which kind of soft or hard skills will be nice to have so that you can transfer that into this new career. I don't know, maybe here, Ilva, Claudia, you went through this, so maybe you can share a little about your experience.
Yeah, I can go. So no, first of all, I don't think there's any background required. Like, I think it's much more important that you're super motivated to really also, let's be honest, to sit down a lot of hours and learn. Like, it's not something that you can just like I don't know, like on the way, kind of switch careers. That's definitely not gonna happen. So I think it's about motivation and about passion, even, I would say. And I think it's mainly about the user. Like, what I found really important is that you're interested in understanding why people do what they do, why they use the product in the way that they do. So it's not like, I think somebody was also talking about that. It's a bit about the psychological part. It's about creating something that makes sense intuitively. So it's I think any background has something that will help you, but there's, in any case, a lot of things that you need to learn. So you just need the motivation. But I would encourage anybody who feels that they might be interested just to give it a try and do some research. And I think that literally anybody could, if they have the interest in it, could end up being a really good UX designer.
Claudia,
Claudia, do you want to add something?
I didn't raise my hand, but yeah. Well, I have something written here about the soft and hard skills. Regarding the soft skills, I would say the most important one, as Ilva was already mentioned, is being patient, because you're gonna need a lot of, no matter if you are like a people person, as Susana have said, your role is gonna be the one of the facilitator, and you're gonna have a lot of meetings, and you will have to study also a lot, and you will have to learn a lot also from the most senior people in your company. From, like, you're gonna be learning from everybody. You have to become a sponge, basically, when you get there in your first position. So you have to be very patient and be very, like, try to focus on what you want and what you want to learn from each one of these persons and what they want from you. And also you have to be, like, very humble, because you're gonna as a new person in a new career, you will be like, oof, okay, I don't understand this. I need to back off a bit and like find a way to learn this. But I would say that top soft skill that you need is curiosity, because if you're not curious about your users and why they do the things that they do, and or how do they interact the way they do with your prototypes or your designs, then if you are not curious, then you are in the bad path.
Yeah, if I can
Yeah,
piggyback on something that you were saying, Claudia, is that patience and flexible, because you might have a lot of research done, and then you have one design and you deliver that design, and then it doesn't work, or it doesn't work as you expect it would. So it's not solving the user's problems. So you have to iterate on the solution. So I think I agree. You have to be humble to understand that even if you've done the most of research, you might need to iterate on your ideas and be flexible with what is happening. and actually open to learn from that experience is what is going to make you a better designer. And I wanted to add one more thing. You have to be proactive, especially if you're the only designer, the only UX designer in the team. You're gonna have to be very brave sometimes to push yourself and bring the team together to maybe gain alignment. As Susana was saying before, like sometimes you have to, well, many times actually, you are acting as a facilitator. So you are the glue that's putting the entire product together, because you are embodying the needs of the user. So you understand the user and you're trying to design for your user, and you have to sync with everybody in the team to make sure that that vision on the design is delivered and is solving the problem of the user. So yeah, sometimes this is not obvious, and you're gonna have to do a lot of meetings or prepare a Miro board that helps you walk through certain stuff. So I'd say that being proactive is very needed, as well as a UX designer, to bring together the team, or to, not be shy and go and ask for support or for more information about certain things on the product, like to the data analyst, for example. Hey, can you help me understand a bit better the numbers we're seeing, for example? So just be proactive and not shy, I'd say, on showing the value as well that you can bring as a designer to the team.
Yeah, maybe I would like to add that I think also critical thinking is one of the key skills that you need. Like sometimes everybody's really excited about an idea because it looks really good, and then you might be the one that has to say, no, actually, this might not be the best option. So talking about shyness, I think that's definitely something I'm still learning to say, to really communicate your doubts, because you've done the research and you're in that process. So critical thinking is for me number one skill that you need, that you can also develop, but you definitely need to work on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, so critical thinking, curiosity, being proactive, these are some of the soft skills that are actually required to jump into UX, UI design. I would like to finish with Alejandra's question, because, I started reading that she has a background in design thinking and strategic design, but actually she's asking about the relationship between design thinking and UX, UI design.
I can go with this. Design thinking is a framework, a process of doing things, and it's not like exclusive for designers. A lot of product managers, people in marketing, like C-level, a lot of people do it. And the goal of it is a process for you to launch a product, for example, to launch an MVP. So everybody can do that. And in UX design, you also use sort of a framework that is more or less the same approach. Basically, the cycles that it has, it's always more or less the same thing everywhere. You'll find a lot of frameworks and double diamond and this and that. But basically, it all comes down to the same points, which is research. So you always start with an assumption or an idea or something you want to find out. Yeah, you have this. And then you have to research to get more insights, right? And when you have these insights, then you reformulate most of the times your question or your initial hypothesis or whatever. And then you jump into the solution. And the solution usually has a prototype and needs to be tested and iterated, etc. Now, the way you do this, it depends. If you use it in a context that you are a startup, and you don't even have a designer, and you do a design thinking process to release a product or something, you just do whatever you can. Maybe the prototype, it's something not even so great or beautiful, but it's something workable and can be tested. And it can even be done in 5 days. If you heard about like Google design sprints, you can test an idea in 5 days, for example. So basically the process is always the same. I also find it sometimes a bit confusing, because for me, it's the same steps. But at the end, the goal is always to validate something, to test it, and to continue to improve and to iterate. That's how I see it, girls. I don't know what you if you have a different approach. But
I think everyone agrees.
cool.
Okay, so we have a lot of questions more on the side of career development. So there's one by Emil that says, for new UX designers who have no real case studies to showcase yet, what advice do you have to start building real ones? Yes, Claudia.
Hi, Emil. That was my case when I was looking for a job, so I can answer from experience. What I have done to create up my portfolio was two things. The first one was to make a bootcamp and to add my case study from the bootcamp in the portfolio. Like, I mean, it counts as an academic experience, but it counts. And the second one was to find a ONG or a cause, like a cause you feel comfortable to support and create a product for that cause. In my case, I found a friend from the bootcamp and we merged, we joined, and she was more into like, visual design, and I was more like into research and UX and wireframes and so on. And we worked together. We did a design sprint. It was supposed to be 2 weeks, but we did it like in 1 month and a half or something like that. And we made a project for that was a website to adopt pets. So it was like a Tinder for the pets and the owners. So the idea was that you, based on the it had like a questionnaire, like a survey. So you were saying like if you have you were asked if you had kids, which side was your apartment, blah blah blah. Like it was like something that may seem like very dumb, but we learned a lot because we had to test like real users and real people who have adopted pets and so on, like friends and family and so on, or random people in the internet that were like, okay, I read your survey and so on. Like we reached to people in like Reddit and random users, and it was very cool. Like just dealing with random people you don't know just for the sake of having a real project. And then in the end, we launched, but we didn't launch the project. We just published it on Medium and shared it with the people. And I used this project in my job interview. Like my now boss, like the owner of the company, he asked me like, okay, how would you design something that doesn't exist or something like that? Was one of the no, and he also made some questions about user stories and so on. So I just showed him what I had in my laptop currently, because I didn't have the project ended or anything. I was like, okay, I have this mirror board with my design sprint and so on. I'm doing this for my portfolio. And he was like, oh, okay, I've seen you that you're doing some research and so on. So showing your process, showing the real process, sometimes in UX is more valuable than showing the result. So I think that in my case, that was a point for me in the interview, because I was like, okay, this is my progress. My process. It's a bit messy, but this is what I am doing right now. This is what I would do on a real product. And I think that's something that you can do. Find something that you feel passionate about, something that gives you the motivation to, I don't know, stay like at 12 p.m. Like, I was looking at puppies and kitties, so I was very happy all the time doing this project, and I had fun. So yeah, and that's a real project. It's not super real, but you can find some friend who needs, I don't know, an e-shop or something, and that friend can be your first client. That's some advice. I don't know what you think. I don't know if you have any other suggestions.
I would like to add something, maybe. So 2 points. The first point is you don't need to have a lot of things. It's better to have just one case that is really well explained and the process, and you present very clearly what you were doing and how did you thought about everything. It's better to have just one. If you would like to have more than one, I advise exactly with what Claudia was saying. So just by yourself, just check something that you would like to create, something new for ONG or your neighborhood shopping mall, I don't know, like flower shopping tienda center, this stuff. Or you can also pick up of experience or a product that you actually use and propose how you can improve it. So these are the 3 things that you can actually do it. So an exercise from a boot camp or like some sort of like challenge that you participated. For example, you can have another one that is something that you propose for ONG, for example, and another that is a product that you use daily and you suggest how to improve it. For example, but it's better to have just one that you really are comfortable explaining than having a lot and not being comfortable or doesn't really like reflect you or etc. So quality over quantity, that's important also.
If I can add something very quickly, because I see this question coming if it hasn't come up. When you decide where to work on as your first job, if you can choose, because not always you can choose, but there's two directions that I perceive you can take. You can go for more a company that works with several clients and like a consultancy or advertising, things like this. This will give you a lot of a bigger portfolio, like in number of projects quickly. Let's say like over a year you have worked in several projects. If you go for a company that you enter as the UX designer for that company, that allows you to grow more on specific parts of the role. So you are going to be having a deeper understanding of the product that that company is creating.
Mhm.
And depending if it's a big company or a small company, you can get more specialized. Again, in my case, because my company was making video games, I managed to get into video games, and now I'm specialized as a UX designer in video games. But if I was in a consultancy firm, I could maybe have like 10 more projects that I've been working on over the years. So it also think about what do you prefer. If you want to learn more on the specifics of one solid product, or if you want to grow your portfolio more quickly, go for one of these, or a smaller company as well. If it's a small company, it's going to allow you to do a lot of different things, but focused on one single product. So there's value on all of these. And these are questions that the teachers, we get asked constantly. So it depends on what you want. There's nothing that is better than the other.
So regarding landing a job, oh yeah, Susana, you wanted to add something.
Sorry, it's very short. So before you apply for a job, really think and write why do you want to be UX designer, UX UI, product designer. This is really important. Before you start engaging in a boot camp, before starting to apply, etc. I bet all of you already read a bit about it, etc. But take some time to write it down. People will ask you this many times, and you should be very confident why you want to do this. It's not it might seem that it's really easy, but it's a job that really requires dedication. So you really need to enjoy it. Otherwise, you're going to be like give up like as soon as you started. So this is super important. Before portfolio, before everything, just write down on a paper, why do you want to do this? That's it. I think it's very important, to know.
And what do you think will be a good motivation to start a career in UX UI design? Like, what do you need to enjoy?
You need to enjoy. First of all, I think as we told today many times, you have to be curious, and you really should be able to talk to people, to understand people, to observe not only your users, but your colleagues. It's so fundamental for us at our job to have a good relation with everybody that we work with. Because at the end, as I told in the beginning as well, you are also a facilitator. You're going to be in a lot of discussions. You're going to be helping out, deciding a lot of stuff. You're going to be coordinating a lot of different things that are happening at the same time. And it's very important for you to be a person that is comfortable in this role. Also, a person that is not afraid to speak, because many times you're going to be the one in the room saying what nobody wants to hear. And this can be a bit painful for some people. Be aware this happens a lot. Yeah. So you have to really be passionate about the user. Yeah. And how they are experiencing the product. And also managing very well with the business, because at the end, all the companies need to make money. So you really need to understand what you're going to put yourself in, understand your quality. It doesn't mean So if you are a little bit more shy, it doesn't mean, oh no, I cannot be UX designer now. Oh my God. No. You just need to have the attitude to understand what are your strengths and what you can bring to the table. Yeah, but be sure that you really want to do it. That's what I would say as an advice.
Amazing. Thank you, Susana. Okay, so I want to read a question by Enrica, because this is also one that we get a lot. And she says, I am trying to enter in UX UI field, but company always asks for 3 years of experience minimum. What can we do to find a job? So yeah, here I think that also maybe Claudia, maybe you can start with this and tell us what you did.
Well, I was crying a lot, so that's something that I did. But I just applied. I applied to everything. If I like the company, I like the project. For the first thing I was doing when I was job hunting was like to find the companies that, but first of all, finding companies that had open positions, and then trying to visualize, okay, is this product something where I feel myself like, where I see myself working on. And if the answer was yes, I was applying. If they asked if that was the only barrier between me and the job, I was applying anyway. Like that's something. There are some questions there also regarding advice to women that want to enter
Yes.
UX. Like men in general, like statistically, if they see something that they don't, if they see some job requirement that they don't.
Yeah, if they don't
That
tick
doesn't
all the boxes.
if they don't tick all exactly, they don't tick all the boxes. They're like, okay, I like this job, and they apply. And women are more. We are more like statistically, we tend to say, okay, I probably am not enough for this job. I don't tick all the boxes. So I would say just apply. If they ask for those 3 years, just like doesn't matter. I in my job, luckily, they were looking for an intern. So it was a paid internship, and I was like, okay, I don't care. I want it. I want to learn. So yeah, if that's what you need, if you need, I don't know. Sometimes big companies don't want to like spend time on an intern, but startups and small agencies, like small businesses, they take those risks because they are growing. So they prefer to have a designer that they can like train or show the product, because they put like somehow they trust you to grow with their company. So that's something that it's cool. You end up like doing a lot of different things inside the startup, but you also like grow and learn a lot. So I like, that's something that I like from that environment. So try to approach startups, like small agencies, and people who are willing to give you a chance, because without a junior there is no senior. So if everybody looks for seniors, then nobody would have a job ever. So just apply to the companies that you like and write a nice cover letter explaining that you are the person who would suit would help you with their product. And
That's where the text that I was saying, why you want to be UX designer, matters. So when you are applying for a job, it's very important for you to be super like committed to wanting to do this. And it might take you a month, might take you 3 months, 6 months, it doesn't matter. One thing that you all need to understand now is the world has changed. So don't apply just for your own country, apply everywhere. I mean, everybody works remote now. It's incredible, the opportunities. So just don't give up. Always ask feedback in your interviews about what went wrong or what can you do. Is there anything you should show? So you start building up a little bit better your profile so you can find the job that you like. So it's a process. It's a UX process as well. So you need to do it by yourself. Everything is.
Ilva, do you want to add anything on this? If you want to.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I don't have a lot of interviewing experience, but the way I see it is that I think the moment you get to the interview, you already won a bit, in the sense that I think it's a lot about the way you think, and you can show that once you're in the process. Like, I wouldn't be so scared about the portfolio, the CV itself, that I think that when, like, even though you don't have a lot of experience, if they see that you think in the right way, or in an interesting way, I don't know how to say it, and that's very valuable. So as Claudia said, I would definitely not be scared And as somebody said, like just try to work on that imposter syndrome, and try to work on your confidence, and just if you're interested and passionate, then that's what they're looking for junior positions. So I wouldn't be scared. Yeah.
So talking about imposter syndrome, we have, let me check, Sharon here. She's saying, I don't think I have artistic talent or hobby. Neither am I creative. Can I get into UX UI design?
Me neither. I also don't have any hobbies. I'm very boring. It's okay.
You can.
Yes, and we need you. We need everybody who considers themselves boring or not fitting. That means something. Like, you are also a person that uses stuff, so that is gonna help you as well, empathizing with your users. Because if you only analyze, oh, but it's a UI, well, you will get to the UI, but the most important part, in my opinion, I'm a UX designer, is the UX. Like, if you understand how people are thinking and what are the motivations of your users, and you take care of them, that is the most important thing. Like, the UI skills, the being able to create an interface, is something that can be trained. And honestly, like, with a few, I'm gonna say, a few months dedicated to understand the basics and practicing, everybody can get it. So don't worry too much about the art part.
I would like to add something. I hear this so many times. I'm not creative. I don't have ideas. We are all creative. We are human beings. We solve problems and take decisions every day, every minute of our lives. What we can do is to explore that a little bit more, or leave it room to grow. So maybe your context or your past job or whatever put your mind into a different mindset, logical or something like this, but you can practice this. Everybody is creative. So for example, if you feel like, okay, I want to be UX designer and I really like the UI part or the visual part and I really want to learn, a good way to start is to create your own library, your own visual library. So just create an account on Pinterest, start gathering websites you like, products, graphics, images, icons, animations. Start to feed your brain with all these things that you think is pretty and you like it. So you start to create a little bit more of taste visually, and also you start to have ideas from the things that you see, and you will understand as the time goes by, and the more you look into this and you read articles and you discuss and you put yourself into context that you're probably not used. For example, if you don't go to exhibitions, just start going, you will see that your brain is going to start to be more creative than before, and you're going to start to be feeling much more confident in that part as well. So don't let these old beliefs of the past hold you down when it comes to changing your career.
Super.
I have an advice that I can.
Yeah.
I would sound like a granny if I say it, but there are also like long time ago there was something called books, and people still buy it. So there are some of them, like you can find them on like PDF also and so on, but it's cool because you can actually like I mean, like they are not very cheap, but if you find them, they are. This one
Matching
is very cool.
books.
The user experience team of one. It's very. I bought this book, and you can see that I have like bunch of things. Like it explains how to talk to stakeholders, how to do a research like easily, and so on. I have also this one about HTML. Is very fat, but it's because it has a lot of images, and I like books that are pretty. I have another one about like games, because I also like playing video games. So I have like one about game design. Probably Lydia also has it. So I don't know. It's like buy everything. Like if you're interested in something, just buy the book or get the course, and you will be like like you're studying like when you were like in high school or university. So yeah, try to train yourself. Like everything that interests you, you just get wet on that, and you will be learning. Okay, the titles. Okay, I have this one is Level Up. This is about game design. The Guide to Great Video Game Design, and this one is HTML and CSS by John Duckett. This one is very popular. It's the user experience team of one. But you will find them like in blogs. These are like very basic books. Like if you're interested in games or data, some UX designers are also like interested in somebody in the comments was saying like, oh, I'm an accountant, but people like also like designing with data is like super difficult. for me. It's something that you have to learn. So there are books about that and courses and so on. So if you are interested in numbers and data, you can also like find a way through it. So it's cool.
Can I share more? Like I answer. There's a question
Please do.
on books. My essential is always I want to marry the brain of this person. The design of everyday things, like it's my favorite. The user experience team of one that Claudia shared. This one is online, so you don't need it. You can check it online. Laws of UX. I believe the name of the website is literally Laws of UX, so you can check it. If you want something about more product or strategy, I have been reading this one, UX Strategy from O'Reilly. If you want universal principles of design, this applies to everybody. This is pretty good. If you want design for interaction design for screens, design for touch, from a book apart, and then one about video games that is the Bible. It's my Bible. It's where is it? The Gamer's Brain, if you're interested, from Celia Oden. This is really good. It's good in general, but it's more specific on video games. These are my takes, and maybe one about universal design and accessibility that is amazing is Mismatch. It's one of my favorite books.
So you have a library over there, Lydia.
Literally, I'm surrounded by library by books. So yeah.
Beautiful. I think that this could be like the start of the answer to the next question that I wanted to read by Sanil. She says that at the moment, her current job position is not related to UX UI design, and she would like to switch to UX UI design. So she was asking if you could tell her the roadmap to get there. Like, do I need to study? Do I not need to study? Like any kind of resources until landing a job? Like, what would you suggest as a roadmap? Yes, Susana. I love that you raise your hands. I feel like it's
I don't have the button
yeah.
So what I would say is that you work, is that a role? Is there any UX UI designers where you work? Because that's a path you can follow. So if you already work in a company that actually has a design department or UX department, something like this, you can ask somebody to mentor you. So you still keep your job, but maybe you agree with your manager. This all needs to be discussed. That's why it's good not to be shy in this stuff. This is just have a conversation and say your interest, that you would like to learn more. If you can spend like 2 hours per week, for example, with the team or with the designer learning. This is something you can start. Maybe you don't like it, but at least you will start to understand what it is and maybe you love it. So once maybe you love it or you start to read more, so if your company doesn't have this role specifically, I advise you to either talk with somebody that is a UX UI designer to understand, attend these type of talks. So try to go to events that explain a little bit more about what it is, collect insights. So this is the research part, right? You're going to collect insights and understand what it is all about. Do you really like it? And then you formulate, okay, I really like it. And then I would advise always to study. And you can learn by yourself, of course, but if you take an online course or you have somebody guide you, I think it's going to be the foundation in your brain is going to work out better, because it could be very complex and you could be reading one thing there. Not necessarily everything that you're going to read or learn is going to thing in your brain. So you might be very confused about why you are doing things. So when you learn by yourself, I find this for myself. Many times I have questions and I don't have the answers right away. So I might be acquiring like something that is actually not true or doesn't work like that, or make an assumption that is actually not like that. So once you decided that you really, okay, I want to go for this, I would do a course training, but first start to read books, talk to people, and understand if you can do it at your own company. If not, make a plan. It's not like, it depends on the person that you are. You can also just say, whatever, I'm going to quit and I'm just going to be UX designer, and you focus on that, totally up to you. Or you can make a plan for yourself. Yeah, like, okay, the next 3 months, I'm going to still maintain my work, and then I'm going to take this course. And then while I try to find another job, maybe I just work part-time. You have to manage your own life and your career, and it depends on your needs, right? If you need money or not, or time. So that's what I would say.
And
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to add to that. Basically, in my case, it was also the same. I did some online courses at I think it's called Interaction Design Foundation, no? To understand what UX is. But I just wanted to say, for me, it was definitely game-changing to do the bootcamp, just because you do the entire process from the beginning to the end. And that's when I really understood what UX was. Because before, I understood bits and pieces. But I think doing it yourself with some mentor or somebody helping you through the process, one product from the beginning to the end, is definitely super recommendable, because that's when you really see what it is about. So I can definitely recommend that.
And I will add, the power of community is really important. I think if you're committed to learn something, maybe Claudia and Ilva can talk more about it as students, but I have seen it on the students, like the engagement you get when you are with a group of people that are in the same situation as you, that you're passionate about the same thing and you're trying to learn. It's not the same as doing a course by yourself. I started learning by myself, and I am kind of jealous of now being these boot camps, of that experience, because I never had it. And I see how the women on the boot camp really bond together and they support each other, and it's very beautiful to see. But I think it also helps you being more committed and learning better, which is why we're here today, actually.
So about starting, there's also another more specific question about which are the first software or tools that they should learn if they want to switch to a career in UX UI. Yeah, Claudia.
I answered that question in the comments. I think it's important for people not to, but I'll say it out loud just in case somebody's not reading. It's important not to think like very hard about this, because, for example, I started learning Figma, and then for a project that I was doing in some course, I was using Adobe XD. So I noticed that with everything I knew from Figma, working on XD was like piece of cake. And the same with Sketch. Like, once you know one, the rest are going to be like super easy. So I would recommend you to learn Figma, just because it has a lot of new things that are focused on facilitation and workshops, and making meetings with your stakeholders. They have like a mural or Miro, like whiteboard feature, where you can copy and paste your prototypes and discuss it with your stakeholders. They can draw on your prototypes, and they love that. So it's the one that suits your needs. Because probably you'll find yourself in a company that uses Adobe, but if you know how to use Figma, you're going to learn Adobe like in one day. So don't worry too much about that.
And something I want to add on tools very quickly is choose what is good for your team as well. So for your team, it's going to be good that you share prototypes, that they can see it, that they can touch it, that they have access to it without a lot of effort. So something that I do, for example, is I use Miro, and I put all my wireframes there, on all my processes there. So everybody in the team has immediate access to my work, so we can discuss it, and it's very quick. Figma, you can do also that with Figma. I think it's pretty easy. And if you had to choose, I will go for Figma, because free, you can use pretty much the whole program, and that is gonna help you understand Sketch or Adobe XD or anything else.
Yeah, Susana.
I wanted to say, of course, what my colleagues just said, but one tool that you need to dominate a lot is paper and pen. So always start your projects learn how to express your ideas and how things connect, and like in a nice way, as if you are showing it to a person that doesn't understand anything. What I mean is that it's important for us to always start in paper and also do it so much that the other people that are working with you, could be developers, a project manager, like a colleague, another designer, for them, it's possible for them to understand. So this is like, even before you jump into Figma, really feel comfortable expressing your ideas in paper. You see, Lydia, like we all have post-its and notes. It's very important to use this tool. And the reason why, it's because if you do it, you're going to change your mind many times for different reasons, because you discover a constraint, something that you cannot actually do it, because you got some new insights. Whatever is the reason, you're going to be changing your ideas a lot. And if you do this in digitally, it's going to take you much more time. So it's very important for you to feel very confident and very comfortable expressing your ideas, and scratch it, start over again. Yeah, just do this. This will be very helpful for you, because all of you, if you're going to start, you're going to want to jump into Figma and do a pretty screen right away, maybe. And you will learn that it's going to delay you if you start like that. You shouldn't. So I just wanted to add that.
Okay, so I'm going to read a question that is for Lydia, because Anna is asking, what's important to have in a project for portfolio focused on mobile games?
I got the hard question.
Well, anybody can answer, but you have the expertise.
For games specifically, I think you are gonna be managing a lot attention, much more than with any other product. So you need to make sure that whatever you're designing, whatever that is, honestly, if it's more focused on UI, if your work is portfolio is more focused on UI, for sure, pop-up, the menu, the home screen, and then within the game, even if it's just a picture for a pre-existing game, how would you design a UI on top of the game, the actual game that you're playing? That's something. And then if you're a bit more focused on UX, my recommendation is to focus a lot on attention and how you are removing distractions from the screen, and you're helping the user to focus on their attention on what they need to do at that moment, because that is the biggest challenge I'd say on games, on mobile games, because it's if I don't understand what I have to do because there's too many things on the screen, this applies to any product. If there's too many things and I don't know what my next step is, I might never be using this software again. So attention focus is super important. That's my tip.
Super. And now we have one for Susana. So all the personal questions now. Enrica, she says, hello, Susana. How did you start in the UX field? So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your personal process.
Whoa. Okay, I'm going to tell you my path, and I'm going to try to be like more or less quick. So when I started being a designer, it was many, many years ago, and we used to work with Flash, ActionScript, Photoshop, and basically designers were web designers, multimedia designers. There was no such thing in our field. Like I used to work in advertising, as I told you before. There was no such thing. We never call it UX design, even though actually we're always designing for the user, but we just didn't took the same tools or approach, right? So this was how I started. I studied audiovisual and multimedia, actually. And then I became a designer, and I was working in advertising agency. I was doing websites, campaigns in Facebook, newsletters, banners. I did so many banners back in the days. It was really nice. And then I did this for 7-8 years. And then I took a master's degree. So I stopped working, and I took a master's degree in design and multimedia. And in this master's degree, I actually learned a lot of things, but not UX design. I even learned like how to do interactive stuff, like with processing and Arduino and sensors, so a bunch of crazy stuff. But then I had to write my thesis. And when I had to write my thesis, I could have been working in a company back in Portugal, but I already had many years of experience. So I applied for Media Lab Amsterdam. So I went to Amsterdam, and in there, it was my world just opened. Because the project I was working was with a bunch of people from around the world, and we were actually doing a product. So we were doing UX design, UI design. We had a team of developers, content, students. And my thesis was about the process of creating this product. What we were working on at the time was about how could we help people that had psychosis. Psychosis is a very serious thing. How is it? How can we support or help people that had a psychosis episode using a digital solution? Something like that. This was many years ago, like 8 years. So basically, I did all the process of UX there. I learned a lot while doing this. So I just applied for this internship kind of thing, and that's where I started to learn UX. After that, so we did like all that you can imagine. We had like co-creation sessions with the users, and these were people that were in mental, like their state was very fragile. So it was very interesting to work on this project. We were working closer to the mental health institution, Arkin, it's called. So it was very cool, and we experiment a bunch of stuff. Like, you also need to understand that UX is not just apps. It's not only digital stuff. You can be creating a solution for a problem that is actually like a toy, for example. I remember when we were doing this project, one of the solutions we had was these stress balls that would communicate and send signs, so the person, when he's having an episode, would feel safe, this type of stuff. So also have this in your mind. After that, I stayed there, and I was working in a UX boutique. So I learned a lot there. I was doing a lot of stuff for Philips. And I just went learning more and more, also because I was doing courses around along the way. So I was learning with people that were already doing it. So they had more experience. They were sort of my mentors and guiding me. But I was also doing courses to learn more and to grow more. And it just goes organically. This was more or less. After that, I work in a product company designing a smart thermostat. So it was a display, like unique with a specific size. It was very interesting. Then I work in a secondhand marketplace, and now I'm working in the air traveling world. So you just go with the flow, and you learn as you go. You work with different people, and if you can have a mentor as you go and read stuff, discuss things, this is how it goes. It's kind of organically. I work in the past with many people. Just a note, it's good to have a training, but it doesn't make you better or worse. So I work with many talented people before that they never studied design, for example. So it depends on your approach and how you do things and how you learn things. I hope this was helpful. I felt it was very long, so I'm sorry.
No, it was fine. What is quite interesting is that you got to work in so many different industries, right?
Yeah, the more, like, what I found in my career is that the more you work with different people, different projects, either you work in the product place or you work like in a sort of consultancy, so you do projects for many, you gain experience in all of them, and you learn so much in all of them, and all of this you will always continue to carry and to build up into your next move. So it's very organic. So yeah, just be open to things and to discuss. Don't be shy. Don't be shy of making questions. I find this sometimes is a little bit of a could not help you progress as much. Just make questions. Don't be afraid of people saying, "Oh, it doesn't know, it's dumb." Nobody. No. You are paid to make questions as a designer, as UX designer. So go crazy.
Okay, so talking about awkward questions, let's address the salary expectation question, because we have Marina, and she asked what is the UX UI salary range in Barcelona nowadays. But then we also have another question. It's a girl that Sharon. She says that in an interview, she was asked about the salary that she was expecting, and considering it is her first job as a UX designer, how do you respond? So I know that for the first question, you will find a link that I'm also going to share through the chat. And Claudia, maybe you can give us a little bit of context about that resource.
Yeah, hi. This is a website from a Spanish UX designer from Hola Luz, a electricity company from Spain. And basically, she every year she publishes, she makes a survey and she publishes like these beautiful the results in these beautiful data visualizations. So basically, the question was, what is the median salary? So it is here. So it's around like 20,000 and 40,000 per year, depending if you are doing UX, product, or graphic design. And it also depends of the level on the level of seniority that you have in your company. So that's kind of like the average. So you can Daniela share the link. You can find the ciphers like by yourself there. But it depends. The salaries depends heavily on the company and the country also. Like I know people who do UX designing in the United States, and it's like they have other different like
Yeah.
it depends on the company. It depends on the company location also. Like even inside Spain, in Barcelona and Madrid, the salaries are higher than in the rest of the cities. So it depends.
And the industry, I'd say, like
Yes.
depending on the industry, can be a little higher. Something that I mentioned, and this depends also culture from the culture. Like right now, on the position that I'm at, like I don't like discussing money on my first interview, for example, because this can be very political. But my take is, me as a woman in the tech and video games industry, I'm already a minority, and I don't want a number that I'm saying to be something that is considered to discard me from a job in case I maybe say a little bit more money. I request for a little bit more money than what they are expecting me to say. So I don't want this to become a point for them to not consider me for the role. So I try to not reply directly that question at the very beginning, and say something like, if they really need a number, I give a bracket like between this and that. But I am super open to discuss it, and I prefer to have this discussion further on the process. This way, I'm creating a bit of space for them to understand what my value is throughout the entire interview process, and how I work and how I think. Because if very quickly we understand that we're not a good match, it's okay. Like then we don't even need to discuss about money. But if, for example, I have a number in mind that is slightly higher, and they have seen the entire work that I've done and they like it, then they're more prone to accept my offer, that if I say it at the beginning. But this depends a lot on the culture you're in, on the country, on the company. And if it's your first job, I could understand that. Like I used to say always what I was expecting. So if you want to go with a number in mind, make sure to investigate a little bit. You have on LinkedIn, you can check on Glassdoor, you can also check if you're not from Spain. Check what is out there. And in games, there's also a good resource. There's actually a group of game user researchers that every year create like a calculator, so you can calculate based on your location, based on your experience and your studies, how much is the average on the market. So you can get informed and then go informed to the interview with a number in mind that is not crazy.
That's great advice. I don't know, Susana, if you want to add your
Yeah,
position.
I was going to say, I have a different approach actually. So maybe it's also changed during the years, but now actually in the first meeting, for me, it's important to ask this straight away. Why? Because in the past, it happens to me that you have a first meet. Like, so when you're actively looking for a job, it can be quite overwhelming. You can have a bunch of interviews per day. And I like to be prepared. So I always practice. I study the company. I know what I'm applying for. I check like it takes time and energy. And I go to the first interview and I usually ask that as the last question of the first interview. So I know okay, if they don't say the exact, they would say a range. And if they don't want to say and they ask me, I say what I expect, but I'm clear about it. And I say, I want to make between this and this. Why? Because many times as a designer, and I really don't agree with this, but they will ask you to do assignments. So they'll ask you many times to spend many hours doing like a project, like an assignment for them. And it could be that they ask you, imagine you are in a process and you like them, you never talk about money, and you had the second interview, you spend an entire weekend doing a project, you present it, and then you get into the final step. You are like, imagine that you are with two more processes going, and they say, okay, our offer is this, and is really below your expectations. Yeah. So I think it's better to manage everybody's expectations as soon as you started than to be disappointed at the end and putting so much effort, and maybe you are delaying other processes that could be better for you. But I also changed this during the year. So when I was starting, we are a little bit more shy about it. We are not quite sure. And as a woman, I think we have this ongoing thing of thinking that we always deserve less for some reason. And this is, stop this. We deserve much more. and also be free to make jokes. I remember in some interviews, they asked me like, how much you want to make? And I was like, from X up until 1 million, whatever you can pay me. Why not? If they ask, of course, nobody ever offered me 1 million, but
But what if they do? Maybe they have it. If they have it,
maybe they have it. That's the thing. If you don't ask, you never know. This is very important. Make questions and clarify, like, you are looking for a job as much as they are looking for a designer. So it's like nobody is on more important than the other. It's a two-way relationship, actually. So why not be upfront about it?
Exactly. Yeah, and again, like there's not one single approach. Like
Yeah.
yeah, and neither a situation that is the same. So like I've been changing as well throughout my career. If I was actively looking for a job, I might be more actively asking that, even myself on the first, because it's a way for you as well, right, to understand, okay, are you willing to pay what I'm looking for or not?
Yeah.
So it also depends on the situation you're in,
Yeah,
definitely.
for sure.
I wanted to say something for the beginners like me. Never accept free to work for free. Never, don't do it. It's maybe some people would disagree also, but I will never do it because you're offering a service and they are paying you for your time. And even if you're learning, that should be recognized.
Yeah.
If you set the bar low, then your client or your potential client is never going to respect you. So it's important that even if you're learning, even if you accept something like part time on an internship, super mega entry level, make sure that they are you're being remunerated. People may
Because
disagree, but this is my
you already
position.
have value and you already
Yeah.
know things, so I think that's
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
So I've never worked for free, never in my life, and I am from Venezuela, which is like it's a country where people sometimes it's like, yeah, for the I don't know, it's part of the culture in Latin America, like, yeah, you are gonna work for me, so you're gonna learn a lot and you're gonna gain exposure. It's like, no, I need to eat, so I need to pay my rent. So be careful if you're a beginner with this kind of tricky things. You cannot eat with exposure, you cannot eat with experience, even if you have it. So make sure that your work is valued.
Okay, girls. So I think that we have time to address one more question before the final takeaway. And I noticed that some people were asking on the chat, and also we have one specific question over here, and it's about freelancing. So the question is how to get started in freelancing in UX UI design. So if you have some specific thoughts, if someone is looking into getting into freelancing instead of getting into like a job at a company, what are your thoughts about this? Any piece of advice? Oh, you're muted now.
It's very slow, my computer. Anyways, so I did freelancer in the past. Girls and boys, I don't know. The key word is networking. If you want to be a freelancer, you have to have a connection, a networking to get you jobs, right? Because it's harder. And it could be also that you just apply as a freelancer. Nowadays, many companies are recruiting freelancers. So it's not impossible. It's easy. It's probably a bit harder depending on your personality, how you like the rhythm of your work. Maybe sometimes you will need feedback, and maybe if you are working alone, you don't have it, or you don't have it at the right time. So also research that. How is it to be a freelancer? Talk with freelancers before you engage in that, but it's totally a possibility. I mean, there's not much to say. Networking, know a lot of people, talk to a lot of people, check all the vacancies that are asking for freelancers, and or contact freely. You can also reach a company and say, hey, I'm a freelancer, this is my website, this is my hourly rate, or however you charge it. If you like, we can have a chat. Just do your marketing thing.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. And
Okay.
Be careful with taxes also. If you're a freelancer, you need to pay special attention to that. Depending on the country.
So we are getting to the end of the session. I know that there are so many questions, but also check in, like in the Ask a Question tab, because our speakers were answering a lot of questions like right over there. To finish and to wrap up today, what I will ask each of you ladies is if you can give like a final piece of advice or a key takeaway for someone who is looking into a career shift into UX UI design. So I don't know, maybe Ilva, you want to start with this one?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. So I think somebody said it. Confidence is key. No, I think it's very overwhelming at the beginning, I have to say, because it's such an interesting field. It's very broad. There's a lot of things to learn. Just whatever you learn, be confident about it. Just don't look at everything that you don't know yet, because that's very easily always going to be like that. So just once in a while, look back at everything that you learned, at everything that you know also from past experiences, and be confident about it and use it. Like, really, I have not met any person that cannot be a UX designer. Like, I really think we have the stereotype of some specific person. But if you're motivated and passionate, just go for it. And as Susanna said, reach out to us, to anybody. I think we have, like, together we can encourage each other. For me, that was very helpful. So just don't try to do it alone. I would say that.
Thank you, Ilva. Claudia, maybe you want to go next?
Okay. Yeah, I would say a final takeaway. Somebody in the questions asked something like, what should I do if I want to be a UX designer, but I am shy or I have social anxiety? I would say, like, just try to feel comfortable and focus on all the things that you can do and improve, not only like from yourself, but also for the company or product that you're working on, because nobody is perfect. And if you focus only on the things that you're doing bad, you're not focusing on the things that you can actually improve and do better as a person and as a designer and everything. So if you want to take this step and you want to join us in the UX field, like, well, yeah, you're welcome. Like, more than like, you have a lot of resources online, but it's very important also to find support on people that you can trust and ask all the questions that you feel you should.
If I can just quickly add to that, like, I'm a super introvert and I still made it. So just to encourage the ones that are shy.
So Susanna?
Yeah, so getting back to the beginning, after you read and talk to people and you know a bit more what is UX UI design, write on a paper, why do you want to be a UX UI designer? And then look at it every day for a week and understand if you feel passionate about it. Do your eyes shine? Do you feel excited about this change in your life, about doing this? If you do, go for it. It's all about that. But if you look into it and you feel like, I don't know, then take a little bit more time to reflect and understand why you want it, because it's a journey and it takes dedication and be committed. So for that, do this exercise. I challenge everybody here in this call tomorrow to write in a paper. It's like, I want to be UXY designer because of this, this, and that. And then the other day, look at it. If you smile, continue. The next day, look at it. Do this for 7 days. If you smile every day, go for it. That's my advice.
Yeah, I'm gonna build a bit into that, and I think one step at a time. Like if you have the vision of the why and you want to become a UX designer, UI UX researcher, whatever you choose, have it close, like have some sort of paper or something reminding you on that. And it is easy to get overwhelmed by all of those things that you don't know yet, but take it one step at a time. And something that it has been very important for me is to measure my progress. So try to break it down and how close I am. Okay, I am actively moving towards that thing. So I'm, I don't know, reading my first book on UX, or I subscribe to a UX channel. How is this decision also affecting what you are doing? You know, on Instagram, on YouTube, on what news are you reading? Like, try to start surrounding yourself with all of this, so you will also absorb little by little a lot of information and start getting a good sense of what this is like. And don't forget that you already bring value from what you have already experienced. It doesn't matter if you never had a job. Like for me as a person, you have a life experience, and you are a user of many other things. So that already means something. It is defining how you're going to approach a design problem. If you're a teacher, for example, there's already things that you are bringing as a teacher when you are approaching a design. Like you might be communicating more easily than someone that is not a teacher, for example. So try to find the value that you have from previous experiences, whatever those are, and don't forget about it and try to use it towards your new career. That's something I will say.
Thank you so much, Lydia. Someone is saying in the chat, best advice so far by the headphones lady. That was very funny for me. She's Lydia. Okay, so I think that this is the end of the session. I want to thank our speakers today, especially thank you for being so open and for sharing all your personal experience and all of your advices. I know that this was very inspirational for a lot of people because they were saying that on the chat. And yeah, thank you everyone for connecting. We had like over 200 ladies connected, so this is huge. This is really big. And of course, you can always rewatch the session. You just have to use the same link. So probably it will take a few hours to be available, but if you try to rewatch tomorrow, it will be there. So thank you everyone, and hope you get in touch with all of us through LinkedIn and so on.
Bye. Ciao.
Bye.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.